Hello, I'm Jim Brewer. Welcome back to our presentation. This will be part 2 of our OSHA record keeping and reporting requirements. And in this part, we will focus on the OSHA 300 forms and also incident reporting requirements. So, in part 1, we looked at how to determine if an incident was recordable. So now that we've determined something is recordable, what do we do with it? Okay, there's basically two things we need to do within 7 days of the incident. We need to fill out the OSHA 301 injury and illness report, and then also enter the incident on the OSHA 300 log. So the OSHA 301 Injury and Illness Incident Report is an actual report of the incident. It includes the employee's name, date of birth, when they were hired. It includes information about any persons involved in the treatment of the employee, and it also contains details about the incident, the when, where, what, and how of the incident. Okay, and this OSHA 301 incident report must be filled out within 7 days of the incident. And this form contains personal information, so it's never posted or made public. This is a copy of the OSHA 301 form. You can see the different sections of the form. There's information about the employee. There's information about any healthcare provider that treated the person, where that treatment took place. And then we also have information about what happened, when it happened, what processes were in use, what actually harmed the employee, information like that. So again, this is the OSHA 301 incident report, and it's required to be filled out within 7 days of the incident. And you keep this in your company records. The OSHA 300 is the log of injuries and illnesses, and it must also be filled out within 7 days of the incident. And it just includes the employee's name, job title, and then a very brief description of the event, incident, or injury. And information about work restrictions or lost days. And it's a log where we have basically one line of information for each incident that occurs in the workplace during the year. Okay? In some cases, it's permissible to list it as a privacy case and omit the employee's name. This is basically for sensitive cases like sexual assault or injuries to the private area, things like that. There's actually a very specific list of things that qualify as a privacy case in Part 1904 of the regs. So this is what the OSHA 300 form looks like. You can see it has one line of information for each incident, includes the name, job title, very brief description of what happened, and then information about whether it resulted in a death, days away from work, job transfers, things like that. So this is the OSHA 300. This is also kept in, your private company files. This form is not made public. You don't post it in the workplace, but it is subject to review by OSHA. And then we also have the OSHA 300A, which is the annual summary. This is a summary that we fill out in post once a year, and it does not contain any personal information. It must be reviewed and signed by a company executive and posted by February 1st and remain posted until April 30th of the year following the incidents. Okay? So this is what the 300A annual summary looks like. And you can see we just basically list totals of incidents, totals of death, totals of days away from work, job transfers, things like that. But we're not listing information about the individual incidents. And this form gets reviewed and signed by a company executive and then posted by February 1st each year. It needs to be posted where you keep your other work-related required postings, your workers' comp postings and things like that, in a conspicuous place in the workplace. And then there are some companies that are required to electronically report the 300A annual summary. So companies with over 250 or more employees are required to report electronically once a year by March 2nd of the year for the year previous. And then companies with 20 or more employees in certain industries are required to report annually electronically each year. Okay? You can find the complete list in the OSHA regs, and then the actual electronic reporting is done at the address shown here. It's osha.gov/injury reporting/index. Okay? So this lists the industry codes that I work with that are commonly required to report annually through the electronic process if they have 20 or more employees. Okay? All of these companies are required to report. For the complete list, see Appendix A of Subpart E in Part 1904 of the OSHA regs. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. I'll be glad to help you with it. And my contact info is at the end of the presentation. So let's also talk about incident reporting. All employers, regardless of their size or industry, must report certain injuries or illnesses directly to OSHA. Fatalities must be reported within 8 hours, and incidents that result in hospitalization, amputation, or the loss of an eye must be reported within 24 hours. Okay. Hospitalization means actually getting admitted to the hospital. You know, if you cut your hand and you go to the emergency room and you get some stitches in your hand, they clean up the wound, you're there a couple hours and sent home, that's not a hospitalization. You have to actually be admitted to the hospital, and then that would trigger the reporting requirement, and it must be reported to OSHA within 24 hours. This is sometimes referred to as fat cat reporting for fatality or catastrophe. Okay? Now, does this incident reporting mean that you're going to get an inspection or that you're going to get fines? No, not necessarily. The only thing that they absolutely must do an investigation on is the fatalities. Okay? If you report a fatality, yes, there's going to be an OSHA investigation. But that doesn't necessarily mean there will be fines or penalties. Okay? The other things like hospitalizations, amputations, loss of an eye may trigger an investigation, but not necessarily. And it's all about their workload. If the OSHA inspectors are sitting around their office bored with nothing to do, yeah, you might get an investigation. But most of the time, these guys are overworked, and they will, take the information. They'll ask you to give them a summary of what happened, and then they will also ask you for an abatement plan. What are you going to do to prevent this from happening again? Okay? So, with the exception of fatalities, reporting an incident doesn't automatically mean you're going to get an investigation, and in most cases you won't. Okay, there are exemptions to the reporting requirements. Motor vehicle accidents on a public street or highway are not reportable even if they result in a fatality. Incidents that occur when the employee was a passenger on a public or commercial transportation system. If you send somebody to a work event and they get on a plane or a bus and there's an accident, those are not reportable. If the fatality was delayed more than 30 days past the incident, then you don't have to report that. And the same is true for hospitalizations, amputations, if it's greater than 24 hours post-incident. So if somebody goes to the hospital 2 days after the incident, that's not reportable. Okay, so keep in mind that while these would not be reportable, they would still be recordable on your record-keeping process, i.e. you would fill out the 301 incident report and include it on the 300 log and in your annual summary. So how do we report? You can report in person or by telephone to the OSHA area office nearest the incident. You can probably Google up, OSHA office near me. You can report it directly to OSHA at 800-321-6742 and also electronically at osha.gov. So, if you're required to do reporting, make sure you do it. It is important that you get that done. So that brings us to the end of part 2, where we discussed filling out the OSHA 300 series forms and also incident reporting. We have one more section to go. In part 3, we will look at some kind of FAQs and some weird situations that might affect your reporting, kind of wrap it up with a few miscellaneous topics. So stick around for part 3. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Have a great day. Bye-bye.